Very excited to bring you a fireplace build from cali-boud, a family of 6 that does stuff together. This is what our family room looks like prior to adding our fireplace. And the finished product. We could not be happier with our electric 72-inch fireplace brought to you by Touchstone. Stay tuned for part 1 on how we were able to accomplish this project with the help of our 4 children. First thing, come up with a plan and wish list for our fireplace build. We preferred an electric fireplace but love the look of real flames on gas fireplace. Fortunately, Touchstone Fireplace offers the most realistic electric flames on the market, and we could not be happier. Wishlist also included crown molding, mood lighting, mantle for stockings, hearth for additional seatings, as well as incorporate shiplap to the design element. Most important to any fireplace build is the framing. 2x6s were used to construct the rectangular frame on the ground and hoist it up onto the wall with the help of my wife before it got too dang heavy. Once on the wall, we were able to square the corners. As always, the children wishes to help, and I appreciate their willingness and attitude. However, there are inherent dangers on construction sites which should be minimized. I seek out reasonable duties that each of my 4 children can accomplish without much danger to themselves. This does take a little bit of time, but when completed in 20 years from now, they will look back and say they've added some value to the home. My oldest child was pre-drilling the holes while my youngest son is inserting 4-inch framing screws to attach the framing to the studs on the wall. Anytime they can use power tools, they just love it. Then added 2x4s, evenly spaced with pocket holes and screws to attach the frame to the studs to beef up the framing even more so. While he's inserting the pocket screws, Daddy is leveling the 2x4. Now onto the hearth framing. This is the initial framing block for the hearth using 2x4s and a framing nailer. Then added the cross brace to attach the units. Then simply was attached as a single unit to the frame as well as the studs onto the wall. Obviously not the best construction attire. My oldest daughter is using Tip-on glue on top of the frame where the OSB will lie. This is to eliminate any squeaks once the quartz stone is in place. I am surprised that glue did not end up more on her dress or on her feet, but she did a good job. And she's also wanting to help as much as she can. We had leftover 3/4 OSB. The boys are placing it on top while Daddy's outside cutting. It sits about 18.5 inches away from the fireplace and 12 inches off the ground. This was leveled previously and no squeaks according to my son. The boys are just attaching the OSB with screws to the frame. The quartz stones will have a 1.5 inch overhang for a total of 20 inches from the fireplace. Now onto the fireplace box framing. My son is using 2x6 to raise the fireplace 6 inches off the hearth. We came up with this number based off on the height of our natural stone ledger panels to avoid unnecessary cuts. Also using a 2x6 to support the entire weight of the fireplace. And the boys have just secured it into place. And here's a look at our premium 72-inch Touchstone Sideline Electric Fireplace. Because it is such a long unit, it will need 2 people to hoist it in place. Wanted to put the fireplace up so we can get the outline and make sure it fits within our 2x6 framing. Our fireplace measurements are 72-inch by 21.25 by 5.5 inches, so it fits nicely within our framing. Can you imagine if our measurements were completely off? Now make sure to remove the factory screws on both sides, which are not necessary to hold the glass frame in place. It has a metal hook to attach to the fireplace unit itself. We just kept the glass frame in the box for now while we mount and secure the fireplace. Included were crystal hearth and faux log set options. We chose the traditional log look, but we'll make the framing large enough to remove the glass frame in the future if we wanted to switch to the crystal. The faux log set, however, is legit. Looks darn real to me once lit up. It only takes 6 screws to keep the fireplace secured to the wall. Now with the glass frame back on, the Sideline has buttons on top of the unit as well as a remote control. The buttons are recessed. It comes in 36 inches all the way to 100 inch and with the most realistic looking flames. It has 5 flame settings with 3 color settings. Three color settings are orange, blue, and combo. It can operate with or without heat, can heat up a 400 square foot room, has a ventless design with heat coming from the front of the unit. The best thing is there are no smoke or no gas lines to install. Just plug in and enjoy. The next goal was to complete the cement board and stone installation prior to the quartz top installation. My son tried using the caulk gun but was unable to squeeze the lever, so I took over. Prior to the cement board, added some liquid nails to make sure that it doesn't wobble or move. Then had the kids insert the cement board screws to reinforce the strength of the board. I always show them how to do it first and then have them do it, have them follow and repeat. I'd mark the spots for the studs and they were happy to screw it in onto the frame. My daughter also pitched in, but she wasn't strong enough to insert the screws, so she helped by cleaning up the dust using the vacuum. Then we go outside to prep the natural stone with the sealant, making sure to blow away dust and small residue prior to the sealant. DeWalt makes a handy shop blower the kids can hold and use without much effort. We went initially with the matte sealant, but realized all the sheen and shine naturally from the stone were blunted after using the sealant. It looked worse with the sealer than without it. In the end, we ditched the sealant and prayed no stains in the future in this area. Now time to work on the shiplap. This step was necessary now because the quartz hearth is dependent on the measurement of the shiplap from the wall. This work was made easy with an oscillator tool. I was able to easily remove the base molding with ease. Once the first shiplap is on, make sure to level it. Everything else on top should be a breeze. However, our walls were not straight, had plenty of dip in the middle. Thus had to shimmy all the areas that were curved. Uses some excess lumber, or using scrap lumber. Using an 18 gauge brad nailer, secure the shiplap to the studs that were previously marked with the pencil, and also into the grooves of the shiplap to avoid filling excess nail holes with putty in the future. Then onto the mortar, we use quick acting Pro Light. It adheres fast and lighter. Having never done tiling before, we quickly discovered that natural stones are not completely flat and will need to be back buttered, meaning mortar also on the back side of the stone as well as the cement board, to make sure the adhesion is tight and strong. Our initial attempts were to use a zigzag natural stone edging on the corner. And it looked okay. However, later in the video we found out it was much cheaper to miter the corners with better looking corner results. There were corner pieces available but cost much more than the regular ledger panel pieces. My wife is definitely the stone tiling queen. She did most of the stonework. Of note, if you want professional quality results, it's imperative to use professional grade tools and products. Cutting all these stones with cheap tile cutter will produce cheap looking results. The tools and products will be featured later in part 2 of the video. Lastly, I added an outlet for future 7.1 surround sound wiring, as well as an electric plug-in for tape lighting that will be placed under the quartz stone once it's in place. The hardest part about this mantle build was definitely the stone. Here's one thing we as a family were not able to do, so we contracted a tile company to make our hearth sitting area made of quartz. At their shop, they had numerous discarded pieces from previously larger projects. Luckily for us, there were smaller pieces that fit the dimension of our hearth. Thus all we had to pay for was the labor. Our final sitting area is 7.5 feet by 20 inches. With a 1.5 inch overhang, which will be used for the tape lighting for our mood lighting. These guys got the measurement right on the first try. Sounds like they've done this before. Then on to the mantle build. Using 1.1 by 6 8 feet poplar, we'll begin making a faux mantle that looks like one solid single piece using our table saw in our recently built workbench. Be on the lookout for the workbench built by me and the kiddos. Cutting 3 sides 45 degrees on the table saw. And I was quickly able to convert the workbench from a table saw to a chop saw. The chop saw rests on piano hinges and locks in with a door locker. Has a built-in vacuum system. So cutting the ends at a 45 degree miter cut. This is necessary to join the ends together for that wraparound look. These are the end pieces, and when put together it looks like one single unit there. Now this was something we did after our initial design. Our living room is pre-wired for 7.1 surround sound, but since the soundbar and subwoofer were on sale, we went with that instead. And the sound in itself is incredible. Thus decided to make separate compartments for the soundbar, remotes, and a cable box, and a DVD player if they still exist. Hardly we use any DVDs. We do a lot of streaming now. Now beefing up just the top of the firebox with pocket hole screws. The height is just high enough to get clearance of the soundbar in. Next up was how to secure the mantle and make sure if it can hold a lot of weight. I looked at steel piping, but in the end decided to use what I already had, which was a lot of framing lumber. We had to make sure this was leveled first, and putting on the mantle pieces. So I used 2x4s with pocket holes to secure them to the studs. Were plenty strong, but wanted something extra that could hold my weight, so I added support pieces on the bottom and the top to give them extra strength. As you can see, it's sturdy enough to hold my weight up, which is about 145 pounds. Then we finish out the entire framing, making sure to add as many support studs as possible due to the load from the natural stones and TV. And secure them to the studs on the wall as well. Then we finished up the cement board above the hearth using liquid nails and cement board screws. I found the best way to cut the cement board was using a stone blade on a circular saw. B1, super dusty and loud, but clean lines every single time. And you want to make sure your cement board is secured to the studs. Otherwise, that's a lot of stone weight that may fall apart. Then back to the shiplap. The quartz stone is featured in the background and only there temporarily for fitting purposes. The easiest thing to work with by far was the shiplap. Perfect cuts each time. I'm thinking maybe adding some vertical shiplaps to other parts of the house since it was so easy to work with. For the window cuts, I just used the table saw. and perfect at the top. Lastly, the kids were back helping with what they can, filling in the nail holes. We used a fine grit sand block to remove any excess nail filler prior to painting. However, my apologies for such a long video, even had to break it into 2 parts. Be on the lookout for the second and final part of the fireplace build series and see how everything turned out. We were extremely impressed with our handiwork. If a couple and 4 children can do this, anyone can do this.
If you like this video, please like and subscribe for future videos. Thanks, cali-boud.